Hi, everyone. Welcome in. I'm Eli Willenhouse with APG Media of Chesapeake and DC Military Publications. I'm very pleased to be joined by Hannah Tourneau, who is the United States of America Mrs. 2023. She was featured in At Ease back in April. I'm going to pull it up now. So there you are with your husband. You are a military spouse. He's an Air Force pilot. And that's kind of how we got in contact. And then we featured you, a great story, just kind of talking about your life on the road, what you've done in pageants. So I guess let's just start there. How did you get involved in pageants?
So I was a theater kid. I
Okay.
was doing theater at the age between, I'd say, 10 to 13. And I hit kind of this awkward kid stage where I couldn't get a kid role and I couldn't get an adult role because I was in that
Mm,
little intermediate part where you don't look like one or the other. You're just kind of awkward.
sure.
So my grandma actually competed in Miss America when she was younger. And she suggested that I take a look at Miss America because they had talent. So I was a singer. And I thought, well, I'll do this like just for a little bit. I'll go back to theater and it'll be a fun little hobby to say that I did. And that was 14 years ago. I've been competing ever since. I started as a teen, a Miss America Outstanding Teen. And then I went into Miss America. I did their program for about 8 years. And then I went into the married women's division once I got married to my husband back in 2018. So it's been a hobby that's just followed me, and I will probably be involved with it for the rest of my life. And it's just something that just brings me great joy and pleasure.
What's been the biggest difference between the different divisions?
So, as a married woman, it's now not just me competing. I like to say that it's my team sport because I have my husband involved, and he is extremely involved in my pageants. Even with the military, when he's gone, if there's a live stream, he'll watch it live stream or he'll FaceTime my mom to be involved while I'm competing. He's always texting or calling if he's not there. I actually have multiple national pageants and state pageants that he's never been able to go to because he was
Mm,
TDY. And I have one video when I was competing for Mrs. Virginia America. He was actually in Florida for a TDY and he put a laptop up in a car with like 7 other guys while watching crowning. And the whole car erupted when I was crowned Mrs. Virginia America in 2022. And so he's just been such a huge support and has just always been there for me. And that's honestly the biggest change as a married woman. It's just a different type of environment. You're dealing with women from different phases of life, different walks of life, and everybody's in a kind of different stage with children or no children or their jobs, their marriages. And so it's just so
mm,
many walks of life combined. And it's just I prefer it so much more to Miss and Teen. It was a great experience, but it was more of a solo sport in a sense. It was just
sure.
me, it felt like. And now I feel like when I'm competing, I'm representing not only myself, but my family as well.
Well, I want to pull something up here because I think we have showcased your husband's support for you. Uh,
His shirts.
that's a shirt with your face on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
How did he come up with that idea?
So it was my idea. I am a
Okay.
very extra over the top person, as you easily can see. That's actually what's funny with the second shirt. That's the long sleeve. That's a military mess dress style shirt, the party shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually his idea. The first
Okay.
one I started in 2020. I got a shirt with my face on it. 'Cause it's like, I want something over the top for nationals. And
Okay.
I don't want you just to wear a button because a lot of husbands will wear buttons or they'll wear like a little t-shirt. And I wanted something even more over the top than that. And
Mm-hmm.
I randomly stumbled upon Hawaiian custom shirts and found out that you could put any photo you wanted. So I ordered this shirt and I thought that it would be a joke and that he wouldn't wear it. But I married a man that is very much over the top like I am.
Mm-hmm.
And he just ran with it. He loves it. So he wears that shirt. He has socks. He has the party shirt. He now has two Hawaiian shirts. And he's just become, I would almost say, even more well known in the pageant world than I am because everybody's like, where's your husband in his shirt? The whole
Yeah.
conversation leading up to nationals this past year was, well, what's your husband going to wear? It wasn't what my evening gown was. It was, what's your husband wearing to every phase of competition?
Right.
So he has just ran with it, and
You
that type
two
of
have set
support
the
is so
bar
cool.
very high at this point. So I don't know where do you go up from here?
I want to get a custom suit with my face on it, like the whole suit. And
Okay.
we made this bet the night of finals at nationals because everybody's like, "Well, what if she wins? What are you wearing next year?" And I threw out there, "Well, what if it's a whole suit with my face on it?" And he's like, "Well, if you win, I will absolutely wear a suit with your face on it, like head to toe, just Hannah." So he now has to own up to that bet and wear a suit with my face on it at nationals next year.
Wow.
So
That's great.
that's the next step. So very over the top.
So this is going to be a strange question, but how many times can you compete?
So you can compete in other systems. For
Okay.
USOA, unfortunately, I now have captured the national title. Well, I guess not unfortunately. I'm very excited about it, but I can no longer compete. So
Okay.
after I crown my successor, I will just be involved in the organization probably forever. I
Mhm.
actually right now I help run their national social media page, so I help with that. And as long as I can just stay involved in the national pageant, I'm going to. I
Okay.
love the United States of America's pageant system, so I'll help at nationals, help with the girls, help with recruiting. So that's something I can be involved with for the rest of my life. But unfortunately, I can't compete at USOA ever again, which makes me
Oh,
really
wow.
sad. But there's
Okay.
other systems that I can go to if I want to compete afterwards. But I like saying that pageants for me are like potato chips. I can't just have one. So everyone keeps asking, well, you captured this title, or you're just done now. I'm like, no, I will never be done with pageants. I will compete when I'm in a nursing home one day. That's
There you
just,
go.
this is my happy place. It's what
Yeah.
makes me happy and brings me joy, and it's my hobby. So it's something that I will always be involved in. So even after I crown my successor, I don't know yet if I'll take a year, a couple years off, or if it'll be immediate or what I'm going to do. But I there will be more pageants in mine and my husband's future. So
Well, to this point, you won the United States of America Mrs. Texas in 2020, and then you moved to Virginia, and then you won that in 2021. You were with a different association in 2022,
mhm,
and then you came back and won United States of America Mrs. Virginia 2023,
yes,
and then eventually were crowned.
yeah.
So I mean, that's quite the journey.
It is. I have a lot of people that ask because in 2020, when I was Mrs. Texas, it was actually my very first Mrs. pageant.
Hmm.
And I did take a break in between doing Miss and Mrs. I took about a 5 year break.
Oh,
And my husband and I had been married for about a year. And I decided, hey, I want something outside of work. So that's how I got involved with USOA. I found the organization, went and competed, and I was first runner up.
hmm.
And then I went back. I was like, this is my year. Went back as Mrs. Virginia 2022 and, or sorry, 2021 for USOA. And I was second runner up that year. And I didn't like how I felt after I lost because I felt so defeated because I had poured so much of myself into that title that year.
Hmm.
Because when you start competing, it's not just you go to nationals and you compete and you're done. I pour my whole heart and soul into it. So it's prepped for a whole year. And at that point, I had prepped for 2 years for this title from Mrs. Texas to Mrs. Virginia, but I didn't like that feeling of just absolute just defeat. So I
Mm.
decided to take a step back and reevaluate why I'm competing. And I went and did actually Mrs. America. I competed as Mrs. Virginia. So I won that title. That was the one actually where my husband was TDY. And I went and competed. I actually placed in the top 15 at Mrs. America.
Okay.
And I had a wonderful time. It was an awesome organization. They really focus on family and that kind of support. But with USOA, it's more of a fashion forward and modern organization. So they really champion women that, like myself right now, I don't have children and I'm a corporate woman. And they champion all walks of life. And so that's where I feel like I just fit in the best was USOA. So I ended up going back and I was crowned Mrs. Virginia 2023, and I ended up ultimately winning at nationals. And I'm a big believer in that you're 9 no's away from a yes. And if you give up, that's actually when you fail.
Mm.
So I just kept going back because I knew at some point they would tell me yes at nationals, and I finally would capture the title that I had been working so hard for. So I'm someone that never ever gives up no matter what I'm doing, and that kind of shows with my 3 USOA titles
Yeah.
that I've captured. So
And have you met a lot of other military spouses in
oh,
this organization?
absolutely. It is amazing how well the pageant world kind of connects people. And it's very difficult as a military spouse to find friends in a community because my husband and I have moved 5 times in the past 7 years. And I've moved personally for my job 4 times without
Ah,
him. So I've moved a lot. So pageants helped me find that sense of camaraderie and friendship. And one of my best friends, her name is Tabby. Her husband actually went to the Air Force Academy 10 years before my husband went to the Air Force Academy.
okay.
And she actually works, she's a contract worker out at the Pentagon. He is still in the Air Force. So it's so weird how our lives are so similar. She's one of
Mm-hmm.
my best friends and I absolutely love her. She's a military spouse. There's dozens of other military spouses. There's women also that are in the military that compete. And
Wow.
so it's just amazing how well we end up just kind of intermingling and understanding each other because
Mm-hmm.
we have a bond already even before we enter the pageant, which is being a military spouse or being in the military. And it's something that, as a little group that we only kind of understand and get. And so we already have that bond. And then you add pageants on top of it. And the friendships are just something that just lasts a lifetime. So it's been a great way for me to make friends literally all across the United States. So no matter where my husband ends up going with, his different bases, I will always have a friend already in that state.
Right. That's great. Well, that's good to know. And at this point, moving forward, like you said, you cannot compete again because you have the national title, but you said you'd be involved in the organization going forward. And each time you have or you compete, you have a platform as well. The
Yes.
one that we noted in the magazine has to do with hospice. So could you maybe talk about why you chose that?
Absolutely. So my platform I developed myself. It's called Reach Out and Remember, and it's in memory of my great grandparents who were both under hospice. So I started volunteering with hospice about 10 years ago after my great grandmother had passed away. And I wanted to do something to remember her by.
Hmm.
And because I grew up in a multi-generational home, so I grew up with my great grandparents. I saw them every single day. And so once they passed, I felt such just a void in my life of them just not being around.
Hmm.
And I remembered that my great grandmother just loved to sit and chat with me. And she loved, since I'm a singer, she loved for me to sing to her. And so my grandma, once again, actually, she suggested that I get involved with hospice. She's like, your great grandmother was under this, maybe find ways to volunteer and be able to give back to other families that are going through the same experience that we went through. Because the hospice nurses and volunteers were such a huge support to my family,
Hmm.
my great grandparents. So I started going in and singing at nursing homes. And then I even went up into going and visiting hospice patients, sitting with them while they're passing, if their family can't be there or if they don't have family, being that support to them. And I realized over the years that every time that I would say, well, I volunteer with hospice, the reactions that I would get just blew me away of, oh my gosh, that's so great that you can do that, but I could never do something like that. That makes me so uncomfortable. I could never get involved no matter how much I want to, because I could
Hmm.
never get past being uncomfortable about the death part, which that's,
Sure.
I would say hospice, it's about, I'd say 10% of it is the death side of it, but so much
Yeah.
more is being a support to that person or their family during that process. And hospice is a celebration of life and family and love. And that's what I try to remind people. So with my platform, Reach Out, Remember, I'm trying to break that negative stigma that's tied to hospice and trying to show people that there are so many ways that you can get involved and volunteer without even probably ever having to enter a nursing home. Like I have people write cards, letters, make blankets, do a blanket drive to go to hospice patients, get on the phone and just chat with somebody if they're able
Hmm.
to do that. If they want to have their children make Valentine's Day cards or, send in little board games, there's so many ways that people can be involved still. And that's what I decided to make my platform focused on, is just trying to help encourage people to be a part of hospice and volunteering and giving back.
That's very cool. So who do you partner with then to make these things happen?
So I work a lot with Emeritus Hospice, but I've also volunteered with Crossroads Hospice, Heartland Hospice. I've also just been going to different nursing homes that up in Williamsburg that have just emailed me and said, "Hey, could you just come in and entertain our nursing home residents? They'd love to have you come sing," because I'll sing oldies. So I'll sing Frank Sinatra, Barbara Streisand, Aretha Franklin, Donny Osmond, and just try to lighten their day. Or just going in and sitting and chatting with somebody. A lot of times people forget that these people that are in nursing homes, some of them don't have families.
Hmm.
Other people that they do have families, maybe their family doesn't come visit them or their family isn't close by. So they're just sitting in a nursing home by themselves day after day after day. And they feel alone a lot of times and they feel neglected a lot of times. And so just a lot of times just going in and sitting and holding someone's hand and giving them that personal one-on-one connection is something that truly can just change their whole entire outlook of that day. And so a lot of times that's what I'll end up going and doing, is just sitting and just chatting with somebody.
Great. Well, once again, thanks for joining us today. Congratulations on being United States of America Mrs. 2023. Again, we featured Hannah in At Ease. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can. There's a pop up there in the bottom of your screen. You can follow us at Ease Monthly. And then you can follow along with Hannah. I think I got this right. This is _ Hannah Tourneau. And you can reach out, get involved, support as you make your rounds and I guess represent the state and represent the nation as the United States of America misses.
Yes, it's going to be an awesome year. I have so many things planned, and being able to support other military spouses and hospice patients and just supporting other women in the corporate world and the military side. So I'm very, very excited for this year to come.
Excellent. Well, once again, thanks for joining us, Hannah, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you so much.